Hey, good afternoon. So, why don't we do a model together just so that you get the feel for maybe the new way I'm kind of working on models and then see how actually I kind of do it and then see if you want to adopt some of my methods. So, what I want to do is revisit uh, an old one I've kind of been working on a while back and see if I can improve on it a little bit, um, which is essentially the White Queen. It's a model I've kind of been working on like months ago. It feels like ages, but let's see how we could try to improve this thing so that it actually is a better model. So first thing, I'm gonna go and create a new folder here, and I'm gonna copy all of those images such that I have a working copy that we can edit. So I'm gonna create a new folder. I'm gonna call that image v2, and then I'm gonna copy all of those images that I've got here, including the captions. I'm gonna go and copy all that stuff into the image v2 folder. And within that folder, I'm going to create another folder that I'm going to call new folder. I'm going to call that is raw. I'm going to put all of those images in there. Sorry about that. That's my bird. That's kind of going nuts. So not sure if you can hear it on the recording, but maybe. So if you wonder what that was, that's my little parrot. That's kind of squawking downstairs. So I've got all those images. So just so we have a view, let's bring them up. And one thing that you really want to do when you have image like that, and one thing I've learned a lot, is you really need to focus on the subject. So get rid of anything that does not that is not the subject and that will throw the learning away. So we're going to have to go and edit all of those images to kind of clean them up a little bit. So I'm going to fire up Photoshop here, and I'm going to bring the first image. And yeah, we're going to need to do some cropping just to keep that main subject in check. So we're just going to go and remove a lot of the content. And yeah, my resolution is not so great. I see that I'm going to have like some sub 500 and 512 by 512 resolution. Yeah, that's not going to be great, but I guess we're just going to go with what we've got sometime. You've got to use what you've got. This one is going to be like fairly small again, definitely sub what I wouldn't recommend. Like you don't want to go anything less than 512 by 512, otherwise you get into trouble. But I guess in this case, I'm not going to have much choice. And I'm going to keep going, edit that one. So bring it in check. So we just have the subject focus, because that's where the learning is going to take place, right? There's no point in keeping all of that stuff around because that's not what we want to learn. I just want to learn about the one subject and nothing else. So I'm just going to keep going. And even though those are quite small, they will still add valuable information to the model. They will just be smaller kind of learned parts during the training. So we're going to keep the hands. We're going to go with the back of the air. And that sounds good. Let's keep that one. We're going to go and keep the hand here. Just chop what's not relevant on the left and right. So I'm just quickly going through here, keeping the hands. Chopping the Mad Hatter sort of in the process. And if that model turns out good, I'm going to publish it on Civet AI. So now I've got a whole bunch of images that are repetitive, so that could prove like partially problematic. It might trigger like the learning process might get skewed. So this one is quite soft, but oh well. we can try to see if we can fix it in some ways. So this one, so now I'm kind of going to show like some of those are pretty much well cropped. This one needs some recropping. It's not what I would call perfectly cropped subject. We're just going to go and focus on the one subject here. Like that. Going kind of looking at the rest of the image. They are pretty well cropped. Again, just looking at those ones. There's a cropping. I could crop that one a little further. So we get rid of, not that way. I want to close. Let's save this one. I want to crop this one. Well, I guess we have crop, not bad. It might just, there's too much stuff at the bottom here that we can remove. There's nothing to learn there for the model. So let's not even waste those pixels on learning stuff that doesn't matter. Quickly going through. Well, let me pause the video and I'm going to go and modify all of them and then we're going to resume when it's done. Okay, so I've got pretty much all of the image cropped the way I want. So we have like properly framed subject all around. So what I might want to do at this stage is try to see if I can improve these image a little bit to get like cleaner faces, because some of them have kind of noisy, not so great faces. Sometimes they are kind of a little bit blurry and whatnot. So let's see if we could not improve that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy here the path to this image, and I'm going to go into Auto 1111. And I'm going to go under the extras and I'm going to go under batch from directory. And I'm going to load my folder here. I'm going to put the second one as GAN. So I'm going to process all of those images, and just for a good measure, I'm going to resize all of them to double their resolution as well. So we're going to double up the resolution of each image, and then I'm going to run a full GAN cleanup on each of these resized images to try to improve the quality of the faces. So let's not show the results, but for now we're just going to go and do that for all of the image. Now the one issue that I'm going to have, and that's a challenge with how the process goes, and maybe I'm not going to do it because of that, all of my image are already captioned, where I've got like very short captions that says the White Queen. You know what? Maybe we're just going to ditch that and we're just going to go with something basic for this demo. So let's not even care about those captions that I've got because they are super basic. Just essentially it's the name of the subject, and sometime when there's not even in this case, like sometime I had added like if there was a crown or not, but let's not even bother with that. So let's just skip that. Let's forget about it and let's kind of run this upscaling and clean up of the actual faces. And let's see what happens. So now if I go here, there should be a new folder that should show up when GAN starts to run. So it's generating. So it should show up as image2 raw. So it should be in here. And now we should start to see the image coming up as cleaned up image. If we look at them, maybe the face is a little bit too clean here. We've lost a lot of the details of the face. So maybe this is a little too strong. Just a tad too strong. But sometimes it could help learning the whole model because now the image is a lot less noisy. You know what? We're going to go with that. We're going to go with that kind of a strength of cleaning up of the face, and maybe it's going to turn out good. Maybe it's not going to be so good, and we're going to need to redo it with lower GAN, but it gives you an idea of what you can do to clean up faces. So you can go from bad looking, let's see if I can bring like a face that's pre-actual. Let's look at this one, for example. So that's what it looks like before the cleanup, and let's bring what it looks like after the cleanup, because I've got to wait anyway for it to complete. So this is the new version. after cleanup, and this is the and upscaling, and this is the version before cleanup and upscaling. So you can see that there's a lot less blemishes. It might be working against us, but it does add a lot of details in the hair. It's scaling up things quite well. So it should help with the learning of the actual LoRA. So yeah, so that's a process I use to actually get better picture for training by just upscaling and then cleaning them up with, I guess, with GAN. So I'm going to pause until we have all the image cleaned up, and then I'm going to resume so that I don't get you to waste your time watching paint dry. Okay, thanks to the magic of editing, now all the pictures have been upscaled. So the next step is to go through all of them and make sure there's no bad pictures that we want to discard. So let's go and look them one by one. That one's fine, that one's cool. That's fine. That one is okay. Okay, yeah. That's good, that's good. Fine, fine. Okay, good, good. That one's sort of view from the back. Yeesh, this one is kind of blurry all around, not good. So let's delete it. That one, it's good, good, good. You see the back, that's okay. It's always good to have view of the subject. That one is sort of, yeah, I don't know. Let's delete it. This one is better, better. Okay, okay, okay. Book. All good. That one's view from the back. I guess I don't know that it adds much, so let's delete it. Uh, yeah, that one's not very good. I think the face doesn't look good. It's kind of blurry. View from the back, that's okay. Okay, okay. Look good, look good, look good. Yeah, yeah, that one not so great. So let's delete it. That one's okay, 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 okay. And that's it. Now let's make sure there's no issues with any, like, I've noticed when it was kind of upscaling that I've got like this one, for example, is kind of a reverse image of the other one. So this one is sort of, is it or is it not? Is it reverse? I'm seeing pots and pans, and I'm seeing kind of the same handle and everything. It looks like this one is like a reverse image. Maybe when they, yeah, maybe it's just like the reverse. So let's delete one of them. Which one do I want to keep? I think I've got plenty of face, but fewer of the side. So I'm going to delete that one. Anything else that kind of jumps? This one I think is fine. Those are two sides of the same person. So she kind of spun around. So that's okay. I think everything else looks okay-ish. So I think we're pretty much good with this data set, which would give us about 47 image, which is not the perfect number. 48 would have been better because it's more of a divisible number by 4. Maybe we need to trim a few just so that we get to a number that can be divisible by 4, like 44, for example. So let's try to cut down 3 image. We have quite a bit of repetitions in this series, so maybe we can cut one of them there. So this one is looking different. This one is serious, serious. So maybe we cut, I don't know, this one or that one. Let's cut this one. Now we're down to 46. What else could we remove? I think that we could probably do away with maybe one of those. This one doesn't add much value. There's no face present, so let's delete that one. Now we need to cut one more, which is going to get cut. Yeah, here we almost have like a double. So it looks like they are different, but they are doubled. So this one, she's got the eyes closed. This one, I think this one is the right side. This one is the wrong side. So I'm going to cut the wrong side image. Okay, now we're down to 44. We're in a good place. Okay, so now that that's done, what we need to do is, even though we could probably do away without caption, what I want to do is caption the image such that we have like something that's going to say a unique keyword, like not the white queen, because it's kind of known within Stable Diffusion. So I would rather use more like a Dream Boot token that is unique, like just a few letters from the name, and then something that also going to go and describe things that we want the system to sort of forget. Like in this case, she's wearing her crown. She's not wearing her crown. So what I want to do is have the crown like an optional thing. So I'm going to tell Stable Diffusion in the prompt that she's wearing a crown on this picture, and in this one I'm not going to state it because she doesn't have a crown. I also see that there's some image where she's holding a sword. So I'm going to put sword in those captions for those ones. And I'm not going to put swords in where there's no sword. So I'm just going to go and do a quick captioning of each image. And then we're going to get back when it's done through the magic of editing. Oh, why don't I show you how I actually go and do the quick captioning. I'm going to use Koya SS GUI. I'm going to go under the utilities and I'm just going to go under basic captioning. I'm going to put the actual folder that contains the image, which would be in this case the raw GAN folder. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go here, put that into section here. So I want to get text file. I want to overwrite any existing captions because I'm going to need to do a couple things. So first thing, I'm going to go and caption each image with the white queen. So THEWHITEQUE. So the white queen. So that should do the trick. The white queen. Okay, so I'm going to use that as the caption text. So I'm going to caption each image. I'm going to delete anything here. So by doing that, it's going to create a caption text file that contains that first keyword. Now I noticed that I should have put a comma because it's nice to have commas. There's a nice trick when you learn the model with about commas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this and I'm going to put that into the find text box. And I want to replace this with the white queen with the comma at the end. So if I hit caption and I come back here, and now if I open one of them again, you're going to see now that we have the comma at the end, which is good. Now with that, I'm going to have to go and manually open one by one the ones where she has a crown. So now I would go in this one, I'm going to type crown because she's got a crown in this picture and I want to add that keyword to every picture where she is wearing a crown. So I'm going to save this. Now I need to technically go in every one of them and add that keyword. So I'm going to pause this. So I'm going to add crown and then I'm going to add sword to the ones that I want. And then that's going to be it for the captioning at this stage. Okay, so all the captioning is done. So now if you look at this one, for example, we've got the white queen with the sword. If we look at that one, we've got the white queen with the crown. So this is how you get through all of the captions. And here I'm kind of listing the elements that are unique to each image that are not part of that subject, but that are actually kind of addition to it, like a sword and a crown. So now that that's done, what do we need to do next? Now we need to go and start to configure how we're going to train this thing. So if I go back to image here, see we have got two folders. For Koya SS to properly train on these ones, we need to have a single folder that contains the image. So I'm going to create a new one here that I'm going to call it what? So maybe I could just use the raw GAN folder. I'm just going to create a subfolder within it. And I'm going to do 50 repeats, given the number of image. Maybe 50 is going to be good enough. So 50 repeats. And I'm going to put the keyword that we've got so that we know that this is the keyword. So TH WHTQUEEN. So the White Queen. And I'm going to go down here, select all the files, and move all those files inside that folder. So now we have that, and we have we should have a matching token, right? THWHTQN. Excellent. So that's matching. Okay, now that that's done, we can copy this folder name, and then we can go into Koya SS GUI and go under Dream Boot LoRA, and we're going to start to create this LoRA. So first thing I'm going to do is reuse existing parameters I had for, I guess, the training I was just doing. So I'm going to replace this with the path for my image, in this case, dataset the White Queen, image v2 raw GAN. And I'm just going to go and copy. And you know what I want? I usually put LoRA in there because I want to differentiate data sets for LoRA and textual inversion. So I'm going to go here and just going to go fix. I'm going to fix that here. I'm just going to go create a new folder. I'm going to call it LoRA. And I'm going to throw this one there. And that's where I'm going to grab my image folder. So going back here, replacing that. So now we have the LoRA, and now what I can do is I can go and replace all of my existing reference to the folder for the project. So now we're good. So what we want to do next is actually create a folder in the stable, where I'm going to put my stable diffusion LoRA. That's going to be the output for the model. So I'm going to call it White Queen. And the name of the model is going to match the actual token that we have for the model. So if I go back here, I select this here. So the token is that. Going back to Koya GUI, I'm going to put that as my token, and I'm going to create a version 1. I'm going to copy this thing, and I'm going to put that as my configuration file name, so I know that this was the config, and let's save it. Let's make sure it did save the file without any error. So to do that, I'm just going to go ahead and see this is where it said save. There was no error, so we're good with the saving. I guess I don't really need the comment in there anymore. So we're good with that. That part is saved. We have the configuration. Now the parameters, this is where it's interesting, right? So I'm using, I guess in this case, batch size of 8. 44 is not going to be divisible by 8. So that's going to cause some issue. 44 divided by 8 equal 5.5. So it's it. Yeah. I think I will just do 4. I'm going to do batches of 4, so that 44 is totally divisible by 8. By 4, it is going to give 11, essentially 11 groups of 4 images. So I'm going to do train batch size of 4. We're going to train for 1 epoch. We have a caption extension called the text. We're going to do, in my case, I'm going to do mixed precision BF16 for the training, but I'm going to save an FP16 for compatibility for users out there. Learning rate. This is something I'm not going to set because I'm kind of using a special version of the trainer that I've got, which is using something called dynamic adaptation, which is going to calculate the learning rate for me. So I'm not going to have to specify the learning rate. The GUI right now still has the fields when in that version, but that's okay because that's going to be ignored. If you are to train without dynamic adaptation, then those would be good values to start. Like 0001 is a good value for training. And interestingly enough, most of the time dynamic adaptation kind of gets close to this value, and it stays there, and it provides pretty good results. Again, that learning rate scheduler is not going to be used. It's going to be ignored. I'm not going to cache latent because I'm going to show you something that I'm going to do during the training. So I'm going to create a 128 rank LoRA 512 by 512 resolution. I want definitely to enable buckets because I've got like a mixed aspect ratio data set. In the advanced config side, token padding, not going to use that. Gradient accumulation steps 1, that's fine. Prior loss weight 1. Learning rate, number of cycles. I'm not doing multiple epochs, so that doesn't matter. Keep end token. I don't really want to enforce like the first token to be at the beginning all the time, so I don't care. Clip skip, I found that leaving it to 1 does better with actual human characters. Token length, yeah, 75, we don't need to change that. Shuffle captions, because I've got like a couple of captions like where sometimes it's kind of the word for the subject and crown or sword. I'm going to shuffle the captions such that they could be reversed. They can come in different order, so that's good practice. I'm not using 8-bit Atom anymore because I find that it gives worse result than when you actually don't use it. So I'm taking 8-bit Atom out. Use X-formers, yes. Color augmentation, no. Flip augmentation, no, because it's a human and flipping will kind of enforce like weird artifacts because it's going to make this subject, it's going to make it learn to be a subject with kind of symmetrical features, but humans are never really symmetrical, so it's better to leave it off for humans. Don't upscale bucket resolutions. In our case, it's not going to matter because we have image bigger than 512 by 512. So if we had smaller image that don't upscale, would keep them small instead of upscaling them up. Bucket resolution steps. This is an interesting one. You could go down to like 16 or 32. In my case, I'm going to try it at 16. So I'm going to do bucket resolution step 16. So what that says is that an image can be cropped by 16 pixels if it doesn't perfectly fit in the resolution that's a multiple of 16. That's going to get calculated to be close to 512 by 512 in the total number of pixels. That is actually helping with the random crop instead of center crop option that I've got here. So what that does is that every time an image is going to be learned, it's going to slightly crop it in a different location. So it's going to crop the image, so it's going to do some kind of jitter of the image. So it's going to move around a little bit, and this helps Stable Diffusion learn the model better. And the bigger here, the more capacity it's going to have to crop in different locations. So you don't want to go too big, but you don't want to go too small. So maybe I'm going to go with 32 in this case. So let's try it as 32. Dropout captions every epoch. I want to caption every epoch, so I'm not going to do any dropout of epochs for captioning. And rate of captions dropout, I want to drop 10% of the captions. So there is a 10% chance that at every step the caption is going to be dropped out, and this is helping give the model more flexibility in styling. So it's a good option to have enabled. Safe training state, I don't really want to do that. And max train epoch number, I don't really want to specify. And the max number of workers for data loader, 0. In my case, I find makes things go faster. So by setting this to 0, it helps make things faster. So this is the config I've got for this training. So now that things are configured, I'm going to go and save this to my config file. And we're pretty much ready to train. As I said, I'm going to show you the learning rate curve that is generated by this version. And by the way, this is a version that we've got here. SS. We're just going to go into the code. So I've got like a branch. If you want to use it, you can go and look at the learning rate free branch. And this is where the code for the actual learning rate free is located. So if you want to try it, that's where you could find it. Okay, so now let's go and start training. Train model. And now let's quickly look at the output and make sure that it's going to start fine without any errors. So as you can see here, I've got my buckets that contains up to 50 image each. Some have more image because more pictures were kind of fitted within this 512 by 512 resolutions after a cropping, which is going to help with that jitter of the image during the training. And now it's already started training, and we are going to train for 550 steps total. And while this trains, let's go and grab a look at the actual logs so that we can see the actual learning rate in action. You're going to start to see here that the dynamic learning rate 0 and dynamic learning rate 1 are going to start to increase in value over time because the system is actually kind of looking at the results of the training and deciding if the learning rate should be increased to produce even better results. So as the training progresses, this learning rate is going to change throughout the training. And this is what the dynamic adaptation does. It kind of calculates the learning rate for you based on the results of each training steps. So let's go and look at the actual folder that contains our logs. So here, this is the folder that contains the logs. I'm going to copy that as path. And now I'm going to go here and go into my terminal window where I've got the ability to fire up the tensor board, which is the viewer to actually get to view the logs as it runs. So I'm going to fire up tensor board, and I'm going to go and control click on localhost 6006. So it's going to open up a view of TensorBoard, and as you can see, we're already starting to see the loss average for the actual training of the model. And here you can see the ramp up of the actual learning rate over the steps that were done so far. So it's kind of ramping up the learning rate, and it kind of plateaued here a little bit, then it kind of plateaued there. And now it's got like a big plateau. So I think it figured out that this is the appropriate learning rate for this model. And if everything goes well, it's going to stick with that learning rate for the rest of the training session. And I believe that if you are to go and look at the actual value of that learning rate, which is 2.86 E minus 0.5 for the text encoder and 1.14 minus 0.4 for the UNet, this is pretty much the value or close to the value that we've got as the default. This one is twice as small because I'm kind of forcing it that way through the hard-coded version of the dynamic adaptation that I've got. But this is actually pretty close to what we want and what we have in the default configuration. So that goes to show that that default value of 0.0001 was actually pretty accurate as being one of the good training value for LoRAs as far as we're concerned. So we're going to need to go to 650 steps. So I'm going to pause this and let the training complete, and then we can look at the result of the model. Okay, so the training just completed. And as you can see, we have a fairly nice curve of lots of learning happening at the beginning, learning very strongly, and then it kind of gets into a iteration phase here where it just keeps iterating and iterating, and it kind of gets better. At this point, it kind of started to rise a little bit. So what I would kind of, if I was to redo this training, I would probably stop at around 500 or 400 sort of 70 steps or near that point, so that because after that it seems to kind of rise a little bit, and it pretty stopped improving. It pretty started to kind of burn a little bit the model. So at this point it's overbaked. But yeah, this nice downward sloping learning rate curve here is kind of what you want to see. And when it kind of rises again like that, that's kind of a sign that things are not improving much, and probably the model is just like starting to burn at that point. But now let's have a look at what this model looks like. So The model was saved again in this location as the White Queen v1.0. So I'm just going to copy that. And we're going to go here in Stable Diffusion. And I've had another video I just completed and then recorded and published on YouTube. But we're going to leverage that same prompt. And we're just going to replace the LoRA that was in this old one with the new one that we just created. So the White Queen, and I'm going to take the actual token here, or the trigger word, I should say, and put that as the trigger word after, such that it triggers the whole model. And then let's make sure there's nothing in there that would kind of break things apart. Okay, kind of bold red lips. She doesn't have really bold, so we're just going to go and take out the red lips portion here. I guess slim body, wearing a peplum. Well, we don't really want to change her dress. We want to see if she's going to come with her standard White Queen dress. And we can potentially put it back after and see if we can change her actual dress, or if the model is so rigid that it's not going to allow us to do that. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. Everything else is fine, so let's give it a try. Let's generate 4 pictures of the White Queen in a garden. And hopefully we're going to get good results. I don't know. So far it looks pretty good. Yeah, that looks like her. And I guess the garden, as you can see, it's picking up a lot of the look and feel of the image that was sitting for the movie. So a lot of those image. So what does it look? Oh, that one is not looking great, the face, but that's because it's kind of a smallish face. Yeah, that one looks pretty good. Looking good. This one, her face is a little weird, but that we could try something like what I was showing up in the other video. Let's send that to extras. Let's double up the resolution of that one image. So a single image. We're just going to double up with SwinIR. Okay, so let's run it. And then once it's doubled, I'm going to send it to InPaint. And we're going to see if we can actually fix the face in a right way. So now I've got the image. What I want to do is go back here, send this picture, which is the bad one, to InPaint. Now we have all of the text about the LoRA and the config there, and I want to go back into extras and take that up-res picture and send it to InPaint. So it's going to replace that version that we had, but with the double resolution version. And now I'm just going to go and mask the face that we want to sort of InPaint with maybe a better one. Okay, and I'm going to go here and make sure we have 512 by 512 resolution for the rendering. So we only masked, that's fine. We're going to give it some leeway to recreate. So let's try to generate a new face and see if the model is good enough to get us a better face. Indeed, when the faces, so now we have a much better face compared to what we used to have here. If you look at the original face, pretty bad. If you look at the new InPainted face, much better. We could even try to generate a new version just to see if we could get something even better, just as a test. And yeah, indeed, we have a much, like the 2 previous faces were pretty good. So now we have a much better version. So that's how, again, you can quickly fix a face that kind of looks a little weird and fix it. And we could even try to fix this one. I don't know if it's going to work, but like if we wanted to really try, we could go and send it to extra, double up the resolution. Send that to InPaint, remove that, put a proper mask around the face for this one. And then let's make sure we have 512 by 512. Let's see how we could improve that face. Much better. So now we have a better face on that character. So yeah, so I think that model is looking not so bad. think it's, again, the GAN might be a little bit too strong because I think it gives like a little bit too clean looking of a face, but everything else looks very good, like the pearl necklace, the hair, everything is awesome. I think we just need to get that face a little less perfect. So again, that's not a bad model. It may actually be good in some occasions to have a model that produces perfect faces like that, like so very clean looking. But I guess it may not be to everyone's taste. So to fix that, then it would be to rerun the GAN cleanup, but with a lesser strength, maybe at 50% instead of a full strength. And now let's see if we can actually get her to wear a different dress. So if we go and say wearing a peplum dress, whatever that means. So let's try it and let's see if that would actually enable us to change the model. And let's see. It looks fairly rigid as far as the color goes because it's learned that she's wearing white. Now the dress looks slightly different from the one that she's usually wearing. But again, I think the model really learned that one dress, and it's going to be very difficult to make it forget about that one. So yeah, it's I think we really learned the look of the character with the dress and with the hairstyle and with the face makeup and whatnot. I guess, as you can see here, none of these characters have a crown. The beauty of what we've done is, in theory, I should be able to say the White Queen. I could say crown. Now that should create image of the White Queen wearing a crown, because the LoRA should have learned based on the captioning what crown means. And yep, indeed, now she's wearing her crown when we invoke the crown using the prompt. And we could even go as far as trying to ask for a sword. There's only like 3 or 4 pictures where a sword was actually captioned, so I'm not sure if it's going to do a very good job. But if we look at all of those, the actual model is actually pretty good. I mean, the quality is pretty darn good. It's looking a lot like the pictures of the movie. And let's try to ask for a sword. And let's see if that's going to work. I don't know. Can we get her to wear her crown with a sword in her hands? I think it kind of tries to do that. Maybe there was not enough pictures of her holding a sword, so it's kind of trying it, but it's doing a pretty bad job about it. So not surprised because there was so few image. Yeah, so the sword thing is, well, she was not wearing a crown when she was holding a sword. So in theory, by removing the crown, we might be able to get better results. I'm curious to see if that would work. Maybe the sword is going to come out better now that we are not fighting with the fact that we want a crown and a sword in a series of pictures that were never seen. Nah, didn't do that great of a job with the even without the crown. But it gives you an idea. Clearly, that model didn't have enough swords in the data set to properly learn what the sword is in the context, but it kind of gives you a hint of a sword. So you can see that it was learned in a weird way, but it was learned. So anyway, hope you guys found this interesting. That's how you can create a model. And if you're interested, I'm going to probably publish that exact model that I just did here on Civet AI, and I'm going to put the link in the description of the YouTube video so you can go and try to play with it and enjoy. Bye, guys.